So there's a new, potentially scary study out called Mycotoxin Contamination in Plant-Based Beverages and Meat Alternatives, a survey of the UK market. Researchers looked for mycotoxins in plant-based meats and milks sold in the UK, 212 products total, specifically 92 meats and 120 plant-based milks, oat, soy, and almond. All products contained at least one mycotoxin. So you may be asking, what is a mycotoxin? Well, myco means fungus, toxin means toxin, so toxins produced by fungi. Several hundred have been identified so far, with these being the most common in our food supply. You've probably heard of aflatoxin before. That is kind of the mycotoxin. It's the most common and the most dangerous. It is a carcinogen. So a high dose exposure, something you get like all at once, it can damage your liver. It can cause liver failure. But even long term, because it is a carcinogen, a low dose over the long term can cause cancer. The rest of them have much less evidence on them, mostly correlation, like they're linked to cancer, etc. A lot of studies are on animals and results don't often translate to humans, but still the consensus is that all mycotoxins, aflatoxin or not, are bad. We want as few of them as possible in our food supply. Why do I do this? I had so much time to record while they were gone, and then as soon as they get home, I'm like, time to record. Did I really just clap in front of the mic? Jeez Louise. This is my first video, guys. Did I mention that? I've never made a video before. Pretty good for first time. So how do these end up in our food supply? Mold grows on a bunch of different stuff in a bunch of different foods that we eat and that farmed animals eat. More on that in a minute. There are ways for farmers to minimize growth, and we as consumers can be careful not to eat, like, obviously moldy food, right? But mycotoxin contamination usually is not noticeable, and it's not easy to kill. It doesn't respond to disinfectants like a virus or bacteria would. It survives heat, pasteurization. If a food is contaminated, it's contaminated. So a study saying all of a category of food is contaminated with mycotoxins, not good. But let's actually look at the study. So again, researchers tested for mycotoxins, 19 total, including aflatoxin. 212 of the products, that's all of the products they tested, contained at least one, with plant-based meats having higher concentrations. 83% of the plant-based meats contained aflatoxins, with a higher prevalence in legume-based products. 62% contained ochratoxin A, most contained fumonisins, on and on. So it all sounds pretty scary, but we haven't talked about the most important thing when it comes to risk assessment: dosage. The dose makes the poison, right? Just because something unhealthy is in our food doesn't mean it's present in high enough amounts to actually cause problems. Legume-based meat, again, had the highest concentration of aflatoxin, with a mean of 0.79 micrograms per kilogram. Parts per billion, same thing. The United States FDA says no more than 20 parts per billion in any food, so that is 25 times greater than, again, the mean in legume-based meat. Now, there are stricter cutoffs. The Codex Alimentarius Commission, this is international, has different limits depending on the food. There's no specific cutoff for legumes, but it's 10 parts per billion for ready-to-eat nuts. That's 12.5 times greater than the 0.79 mean. The European Union, the EFSA, is even stricter: 4 parts per billion in ready-to-eat foods, 5 times greater, but that's for total aflatoxins. For aflatoxin B1, again, the worst one, it's 2 parts per billion. The median for legume-based meat was 0.53 parts per billion, so well under the cutoff, but the maximum amount that they found was 2.1, which is just over the cutoff. A few other mycotoxins have cutoffs by various regulatory bodies, or temporary cutoffs, because again, there's just not much evidence on these. But for now, all of the concentrations found in the study are low. For instance, fumonisin, the EU says no more than 400 parts per billion for corn-based foods. The maximum concentration found in the study was 4.49 parts per billion. There's actually a daily limit. Again, I don't know how set in stone this is, but the maximum amount person should eat in a day, 1 microgram per kilogram of body weight. So the max for an adult weighing 65 kilograms would be 65 to 130 per day. Again, at 4.49 parts per billion, that's a lot of plant-based meat. But what if you do eat a lot of plant-based meat? because even though the amounts of specific mycotoxins in these foods are low, many of the individual products contained more than one, and the researchers are worried about the compounding effect of all of these various toxins. They linked to this Italian study from 2024 that found potential health risk from even low amounts of aflatoxins and some other mycotoxins, but specifically aflatoxins. They calculated the risk of liver cancer from exposure to aflatoxin B1 and got between 0 and 0.05 cases per 100,000 people. That works out to about 4,000 cases of liver cancer in the entire world. Do you know how many people die from heart disease every single year? It's about 900,000 in the US, just in the US. Worldwide, 18 million every year. Why am I bringing up heart disease? Because when we say a food is bad or unhealthy, we're saying it's bad or unhealthy compared to what? And when we're talking about plant-based meats, the comparison is obviously animal meat. Which one of those is linked to heart disease? Which one of those is linked to lower LDL? Now, to be clear, that liver cancer calculation was based on your average Italian diet. The researchers just switched the daily amount of meat with plant-based meat. In this case, for adults, you have 1.9 grams per kilogram of body weight per day. For a 65 kilogram person, that's a little over a 4-ounce serving. So like 1 serving of plant-based meat per day. Your risk would obviously be higher if you're eating like 3 servings per day, but still very, very low. If I had to choose between 3 servings of meat, any meat, and 3 servings of plant-based meat, any plant-based meat, yeah, no question. Especially since mycotoxins are not unique to plant-based foods. Again, mycotoxins are virtually impossible to eliminate, at least currently. So what do you think happens when a cow eats mycotoxin-contaminated grain and then you eat that cow or you drink that cow's milk? Yeah, the mycotoxins can be transferred to you via the meat or the milk, especially milk. In fact, there are separate cutoffs for milk because it's so often contaminated with aflatoxin. A large 2025 review of meta-analyses found most milk was contaminated with a mean of 0.057 parts per billion, which is just over the EU cutoff. And that's the mean. So the EU's recommending less milk, right? No? Still like 2 to 3 servings per day? Interesting. And again, it's not just milk. There's this 2025 Italian study. They found most ochratoxin A concentrations in dry cured pig meat, sausage, and whatnot exceeded the 1 parts per billion cutoff. But hey, at least sausage generally isn't recommended as a health food anymore. Most meat typically has low concentrations for various reasons. Eggs can have very, very high depending on where you were eating them. Typically in the Western world, it's going to be very low, but aflatoxins in eggs produced in China, a few other places, can be very, very high. Some of this is lack of care in storage of various grains, but some of it is just the environment. If you are growing things in a more tropical or more humid environment, it's going to be a lot harder to control mold growth. So some of you whole food, plant-based vegans may be like, dude, this is a false dichotomy. We don't have to eat meat. We don't have to eat plant-based meats. You can just eat whole plants, legumes, grains. Cool, except that they're literally the source. They're the source of the mycotoxins. The source is the whole foods. Now, the researchers do talk about processing and ways in which making the, plant-based burger or whatever after the crops have been grown and stored, right? So Beyond has the raw ingredients. Their practices can encourage or discourage further mycotoxin contamination, but in all likelihood, the majority of the contamination is happening to the crop well before it's made into bean burgers or oat milk. In the case of oat milk, the researchers were surprised at the level of aflatoxin B1 contamination, given the water dilution, right? They were really surprised, and they suspect that it's just the companies are buying really poor quality oats that are heavily contaminated. Cool, guys. Love that. So whether you are vegan or omnivore, mycotoxin consumption is inevitable, but it is reasonable to expect higher concentrations, higher consumption for vegans given our reliance on plants. Someone eating, let's say, a whole lot of beef, not liver, but just like muscle meat, not drinking a lot of milk, versus a vegan eating lots of whole plants, whatever, the vegan's probably going to have higher daily intake and possibly higher concentrations in their urine, blood, whatever. If only we had a study. We do a 2022 study on 36 vegans and 36 omnivores, so pretty small. They found no difference in serum or urine levels for aflatoxins or any other mycotoxin except ochratoxin A. Vegans' serum OTA levels were double that of the omnivores. And this was linked to consumption of vegan products and pasta and rice. Now, the researchers advise caution in interpreting these results for several reasons, and of course conclude that more research is needed. I know headlines like these can be really annoying for us vegans, right? Like, we know omnivores are going to see this and say, see, I knew it. I knew veganism was unhealthy. Most of these people will never go vegan anyway, but there are some who maybe might have. You know, it sucks that this could scare people off from being kinder to animals and to the planet and to themselves. But it is important. Like, we can't just not talk about these things. We can't not study these things. I think this is important research. We want fewer mycotoxins in our foods, and we want regulatory improvement in this area, as the researchers ultimately conclude. We want to ensure that not only farmers, but the companies making ready-to-eat products, ready-to-eat vegan foods, are testing for these toxins. And I have to say, it is so nice to see vegan outlets reporting on this accurately and not like dogmatically at all. Like, it wasn't so long ago that many popular vegan educators, vegan outlets were telling vegans not to worry about calcium. Like, yeah, most plant foods are low in it, but it's fine. Like, we don't need that much anyway. It's the milk drinkers who need to worry about calcium. While I've seen a couple outlets, you know, talking about mycotoxins in animal products, which is true, like, that's fine. I talked about it too. They've all concluded that, like, yeah, mycotoxins are bad. They should be tested for. And I don't know. I think that's great. You don't always see that with potentially dogmatic dietary groups. I know vegan isn't a diet. You know what I mean? The potential is definitely there to pretend that it doesn't matter, or even convince yourself that, like, it's fine actually. I mean, keto and saturated fat, obvious example. They really have to go out of their way to ignore mountains, decades of evidence of research because they have to, right? Because that's their entire diet is saturated fat. Vegans could easily say, well, mycotoxins are in animal products too, so like it doesn't matter. And I don't see anyone doing that. So that's really cool, man. So yeah, I'm personally not worried about mycotoxins in vegan meats and milks. The concentrations are low, even with co-occurrence, it's still very low. Do I eat them 3 times a day? No, but I mean, I do drink soy milk every single day, and I eat mock meat like pretty much not every day. I would say 4 or 5 times a week for dinner. And of course, I live on crops. Like, I eat lots of beans and grains and foods that can harbor these mycotoxins. This isn't a new problem, right? Mycotoxin contamination has been an ongoing thing, and yet even still, we see numerous benefits for vegans. It's pretty clear the benefits well outweigh the risks. And not to be that vegan, but if we're really gonna worry about mycotoxins, I don't know, man, maybe give up the cow's milk. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. I really hope, what's this? I really hope you enjoyed it. Please do like and subscribe. And of course, thank you so much to all of my supporters here on YouTube and at patreon.com/unnaturalvegan. I have been on Patreon for so long. I saw that whole, I don't even know what it's about, something to do with Legos, but the CEO for Patreon, as much as people have complained about Patreon and decisions they've made over the years, he did make a video about getting a cease and desist from some company. Again, I didn't really look into it, but the gist of it was they were being asshats and trying to get this this Patreon page removed. And he was like, no, fuck off. And that was just awesome. It made me like, hell yeah, dude. Like, I am one of the OG Patreon members. I'm not a patron. What am I? I am like grandfathered in with the original fee, you know? I've been using it for so long and it's awesome. I mean, it helps me do what I do, right? So yeah, man, I don't know. That's cool. I do post 2 exclusive videos a month, by the way, for tier 2 and up members and patrons. I will have the second video, the controversial, up in just a few days. And yeah, that's it for me, guys. Thanks again. New video soon. I love green so much. I know I love green so much. It's so funny. I've said for years, like, I don't have a favorite color. I like all colors. Like, I loved green when I was young. I hated orange. I'm fine with orange. Orange is awesome. It's a nice, like, happy color. And then the more I started painting my nails and, like, realizing I'm constantly gravitating towards green, like, yeah, I obviously love green. My husband's been telling me, like, "You have a favorite color. You obviously love green the most." I'm just like, "Whatever. No, I don't." I do. Green and purple together. Oh my gosh, I'm doing it again. I actually thought things like weren't right if they didn't have green. Like if there was art or something, or if I was drawing something and there wasn't green, like it was wrong. I had to put green somewhere. It just didn't look right without green. Do I still feel that way? I might. Oh, I gotta stop. I often sit with my legs crossed when I'm working. And I can't do that with my right leg anymore. There's something going on with my, I guess it's my hip, or is it my groin, my hip flexor? I'm not sure what's the difference there, where things change. But I get in that position and it's fine. That's the problem. And I don't notice I'm doing it because I've been doing this for my whole life, you know? It's not a problem until I go to move, and then getting my leg out of that position. Oh, it like pops or something. Ooh, and it hurts. But like, how do I stop doing it? It doesn't hurt when I do it. So how do I stop doing it? I can't just stay cross-legged forever. Oh, that reminds me of something sweet. You know, kids don't say Indian style. That's what we used to say for sitting cross-legged. They say crisscross applesauce at my kids' school. That's so cute. They also do quiet coyote. I think it's like this, quiet coyote, when it's time to be quiet. Which, of course, like, as soon as my oldest told me that a couple years ago, their first year in school, I was like, oh yeah, I'm sure that works well. It's supposed to be, you know, instead of shushing other kids, which can make kids mad and then kids get louder, right? It's supposed to be an alternative to that. So, like, you're not saying shh. But what ends up happening? Of course, kids end up shoving quiet coyote in the other kid's face and yelling anyway. Like, man, kids are kids. But nice try.